because, many bosses, many leaders, many business owners struggle with this dilemma, especially pet care providers, because we tend to have that, that that curse I've spoken of, the pet sitter's curse, because we are such compassionate beings, such sensitive, caretaking people, right? So it's tough when you see someone you care about going through hardships, even if it's just an employee. And it can lead to feelings of guilt when you have to enforce boundaries. So I totally get it. This is the Dog Sitter's House podcast. Hello, furry friend lovers. Welcome back to the Dog Sitter's House podcast. I am your host, April Hampton. Thank you for being here. Today's episode is for all pet sitters or even dog walkers, pretty much anybody with a business. But since I speak to our wonderful pet care people out there, it's for you. If you take care of animals in any way, shape, or form, and you have or you plan to hire team members, then this is for you. And, actually, quite honestly, even if you don't plan on hiring anybody, this episode is still for you, because eventually you're likely to find that in order to maintain your business without completely and utterly exhausting yourself and ruining all of your relationships, that you will need to hire somebody at some point, kicking and screaming maybe, but you'll still have to do it, even if it's just a bookkeeper, right? So when it comes to leading a team, when you're hiring people, you by default become a leader. So, you could have 1 to 100 team members, whatever. You're going to find that it can be a wonderful experience when you balance compassion with leadership effectively. So, whether you are already employing people in your pet care business or you plan to, then chances are you have or you will eventually experience that one team member, that team member who always has something happening, quote unquote, to them in their personal life, and they bring it to work every single day. Yeah, that one. It starts with coming in late or missing a day here and there because of their personal problems that they can't avoid. So it's really human. It's only human to show them compassion and understanding, and, at first you want to give them the benefit of the doubt that this is just a one-off thing and no big deal. But in time, it possibly grows to them having to take a lot of personal calls at work, emergency calls, that they end up on the phone for 20, 30, and so on minutes. Or maybe they're just, vomiting their problems onto you or your coworkers for half their shift. And so they're getting more of a therapy session than they are getting their work done. And before you know it, you're at their house talking them down off the roof and calling 911 for help. Okay, now that might sound a little extreme. Okay, I hope it is. Hopefully you really, really do not have to experience a situation like that. But for reals, no lie, this is literally, and I don't mean to laugh, it was a serious situation, but this is literally what a client of mine experienced. And I think with a little bit of the stuff that I talk about here today in this episode, she could have made sure that it never escalated to that point. And in any case, it probably wouldn't have escalated to that point with her having to be involved. Not that she would want anything bad to happen to her employee and myself either, but when I dove into how these things escalated to such a point with my client, she would say things like, but I feel so bad for her, and it's not her fault what's happening to her, and on and on and on, which is incredibly compassionate of her, because I also knew that her worker was not getting her job done and hadn't been for weeks on end every day because she did spend more time fussing about her problems than she did working. And, even though it's really compassionate of her, it could also be the beginning of the end of her business. Because the truth is, setting healthy boundaries with your team members is the only way to maintain a successful pet sitting business for the long term. Now, I know if you're human at all and in a similar situation, you might be having the exact same thoughts as my client did. Like, you feel so bad for them, and what are they going to do? How can I possibly reprimand them in such a difficult time? So I get it. I totally get it. Because many bosses, many leaders, many business owners struggle with this dilemma, especially pet care providers, because we tend to have that that curse I've spoken of, the pet sitter's curse, because we are such compassionate beings, such sensitive, caretaking people, right? So it's tough when you see someone you care about going through hardships, even if it's just an employee. And it can lead to feelings of guilt when you have to enforce boundaries. So I totally get it. However, it's vital to recognize that setting boundaries is not really about being harsh. It's actually about ensuring a healthy work environment for everyone involved, including yourself. And as the business owner, you are by default the leader of your organization. Whether that is for 1 or 100 employees, like I said, no matter what, as soon as you hire somebody, you automatically step into a position of leadership, like it or not. If you think of it like a garden, if you allow weeds to grow unchecked, then what are they going to do? They'll choke out all of the beautiful flowers eventually. So by addressing the weeds, in this case, the issues, you allow the flowers, your business, your employee, to thrive, right? And if you don't address the situation, it may lead to increased stress and burnout for yourself and a continued decline in performance. Now, this could potentially lead to the ripple effect of affecting your business's reputation and financial health. Compare a pet sitting business that lacks boundaries to a boat without a rudder. Without boundaries, team members are more enabled to bring their personal life struggles to work, with them leading to a loss of production, chaos, and inefficiency. When personal issues spill into work life, employees may become distracted. And I probably don't even have to tell you that, because if you've ever experienced this for yourself, you've seen it yourself. This leads to the decline in the quality of care that they provide, or the quality of detail that they pay attention to. If they're dealing with your books, maybe they're not even dealing with the pets. They could just be dealing with the books, right? And this could mess up the books. This could mess up the numbers. What could be the ripple effect of that? When you go to do your taxes, if there's some major mistake and you some by chance get audited one day, how expensive is that mistake going to cost you? It's not going to cost your employee. It's going to cost you. Pets that are dealing with personal stress may neglect to follow proper care protocols with the animals as well. And this could endanger them and damage your business's reputation. So if personal issues disrupt an employee's ability to fill their role, it can lead to missed appointments, cancellations, and ultimately loss of business. So if a pet sitter is frequently late or unable to perform due to personal distractions, it could result in your clients seeking more reliable and trustworthy alternatives. Establishing boundaries allows you, as the business owner, to manage expectations and ensure that your team members are fully present when they're working. And this helps maintain a steady flow of business and quality customer care. Without the boundaries, the workplace can devolve into chaos, with it spilling over into the other team members feeling constantly stressed and unable to cope, or picking up the slack and getting resentful. And maybe they're your best ones and they end up quitting, right? This results obviously in higher turnover rates and decreased productivity across the entire team. Now, if you're like most business owners, you may feel concerned that reprimanding your employee could lead to them quitting. And you might be thinking something like, I need them too much to risk losing them. I've been there. I've totally done that. And I get it. It's a very real fear to want to maintain a good working relationship, especially when you rely on that employee for your business to thrive. So you're not alone in this. A lot of business owners grapple with similar feelings. But it's important to recognize that by not addressing performance issues, you may be doing your employee a disservice. Empower them with constructive feedback so they can grow and succeed instead. Think of your roles as a coach and an athlete, okay? A coach who only praises their player without offering actionable feedback may watch them fall behind. Okay. It's like giving everybody on both teams trophies, even the losing team. Okay. How are they ever going to get better if they think they're winning at the rate that they're going already, right? So constructive criticism helps the athlete improve and become a star athlete, right? So instead of viewing this as a personal reprimand, see it as an opportunity to support your employee in a constructive manner that benefits both of you. Healthy boundaries provide a supportive structure that can actually benefit the employees. This means they can have the space that they need to deal with personal issues without added pressure of work chaos. If an employee learns that they need to compartmentalize their personal and work lives, they will become more competent and resilient in the workplace, as well as more confident overall, right? If you set the boundaries in a compassionate but firm way, and they are able to then keep their personal issues at home when they come to work, and they can succeed at work, they become more confident. And this ultimately helps them in their careers and possibly their personal life too. As a leader, when you demonstrate the importance of boundaries through your own actions as well, you show employees that maintaining a work-life balance is valuable, and they will be more likely to adopt similar practices. If you don't talk about your problems at work, then they're less likely to talk about theirs too. Now, that all said, that's the easy part of this dilemma, if you're having this dilemma, right? But I feel like it would be a disservice of me if I didn't ultimately address what could be the root cause if you ever find yourself in this delicate situation. I do like to get to the root cause of things, because I feel like if you don't get to the root cause of things, it's the symptoms of whatever that root cause is are just going to keep popping up in one way or another. It's like having a hole in your yard hose, right? You have a hole in your yard hose and you put some duct tape over it. And next thing you know, a hole pops up, 3 feet away. Right? You didn't fix the root cause. Okay, the root cause was the whole hose probably needs replaced. But think of it like this: if you had a friend who was addicted to drugs and you continue to give them money every time they ask for it, would that be enabling them to buy more drugs? Or would you not give them the money? Hopefully you can see how this would actually continue to allow them to harm themselves. You see, like the friend who doesn't want to enable anyone to continue perpetuating their own suffering, be it in a friendship or a business relationship, I do feel obligated to bring this up, just like I would feel obligated to cut an addict off from money. But before I go there, allow me to share a little story about my past experience. You see, I used to be that person who always seemed to attract friends and, some boyfriends who needed a hero. I need a hero, right? They needed someone in their life to love and care for them enough that it saved them from whatever they needed saving from. But here's how that looked on my end from my perspective. Okay. It was give, 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 and give some more. Then, when the rare occasion popped up and I needed a shoulder to cry on, those same friends that I gave and gave and gave to were too wrapped up in their own personal drama to be present for my personal time of crisis. Here's the thing. I wasn't very wise, apparently, because this pattern continued on for nearly 15 years or so before I realized that it was a pattern, and before I became quite bitter and resentful toward all of these friends, and sometimes boyfriends. The frustration of never feeling like I had anyone to lean on when I needed someone eventually led to my journey of inner exploration, let's just say. So, the first question I sought to answer was, why do I always attract people who always have some sort of drama happening in their lives? I hate drama. Why do I always attract drama? Right? And the answer I found was, quite frankly, humbling, because what I found is that it was honestly my own fault. I had to take 100% responsibility, as much as I hated accepting that at the time. So, this is when I learned what the word codependency really means. Because much like most people, I thought codependency meant I was dependent on others. But that's not what it means. What it really means is that I enabled people to be dependent on me. And so you see, that's how it becomes codependent, because I am taking part in enabling them to be dependent on me. So it's codependent. And I couldn't deny that this is exactly what I had been experiencing for those 15 years. Every time I made a really good friend or got into a relationship, I would enable them to depend on me for their emotional needs and more. Of course, I thought I was just being a loving and giving friend or partner, but I have since realized that it is the furthest thing from being a loving friend or partner, because enabling someone versus empowering someone to be their own hero are two completely different things. But the introspective journey did not end there, my friends. Oh, no, it did not, because you know me, I have to get to the root cause. So next, I had to figure out, why do I do this? Why? What's wrong with me? Right? How many times have you ever said that about yourself? What's wrong with me? Why do I do this? There's nothing wrong with you, by the way. So that's not the answer. But why was I codependent? And the answer was a life-altering awakening. All right. I don't mean to sound so dramatic, but it really was, because it has now affected my entire life. It has completely changed my entire life in every single way since then. Although it was a really, really hard pill to swallow. Because you see, I've always been this person who has been the ultimately independent, courageous and confident person. And, all my friends were always like, oh, you're so independent. You're so confident. Da, da, da. And they would tell me this all the time. However, and I didn't think I wasn't. I agreed with them, right? I saw myself that way. But the real truth is deep down, I realized I was actually lacking self-worth. And in order to feel worthy, I had to be everyone's hero. This isn't to say that every time I help someone or did something for somebody I care about is an act of codependency or me lacking self-worth. But since I had a pattern of attracting people always in need of a hero, I knew this was the root cause of my experience. And it wasn't until I focused on how to feel worthy, just as I was, that I was able to break the cycle of codependency. So if you find yourself attracting team members or friends who continually need your support, then ask yourself, what are you getting out of it? Are you getting a feeling of doing good in spite of the situation causing you more chaos than calm? Because if so, you could need to do some inner work and objectively examine whether you too are lacking self-worth. Because when we help others, it does feel good. But if we're doing it above and beyond and ahead of our own needs, then chances are we're doing it to validate our own worth. And oftentimes without even realizing that that's what we're doing. And on top of it, we could not only be doing a disservice to those we love or those that we hire, but to ourselves and our business too. So yeah, that's the hard part. Okay, that's my vulnerable story I got to share with you guys today. Not sure that I really cared to do that, but I thought it was important to share with you that I've been there. I've done that. And this is how I found the root cause to break that cycle. Because no matter what it is that you still need to grow, what area you need to grow in your personal life, it's always going to show up in your business life. So if you don't address it on both levels, especially your personal life first, it's going to show up in your business and, be a negative effect on it in one way or another. So I hope my bringing this difficult subject up is helpful for you. Because like my mentor always says, your business can only grow as far as you do. So here's the choice you have to make. Will you continue to let your employees' personal challenges interfere with the work environment? Or will you step up and guide her or him in finding a balance that also prioritizes the health of your business and you? Remember, a strong leader not only supports their team, but also ensures that the workplace remains productive and nurturing for everyone, including yourself. And that, my friends, sounds like a good time to wrap it up. So thank you for listening, and until next time, happy tales to you.